After a stunning first season, though not always convincing at some levels, the second-ever HBO series, considered the legitimate successor to Game of Thrones, Westworld, is back for a second season. We saw the first episode, Our Verdict. Attention spoilers. Rapid recap: after a first season a little puzzle, narrated on 3 different timelines and with many characters, the finale of this season 1 really launched the hostilities while giving solutions to the many mysteries scattered throughout the 9 previous episodes. After realizing that she was not human, Maeve Thandie Newton was trying to escape the park before Bernard Jeffrey Wright finally explained that his escape was part of the new scenario designed by Robert Ford and that she did not act freely. Nevertheless, she decided to take the direction of the outside world before changing her mind at the last moment when Felix Leonardo Nam gave him the location of his lost daughter. A huge blackout then plunged the station and the park lobby into the dark. At the other end of the park, the man in black, Ed Harris, was still searching for the center of the labyrinth and Wyatt's identity, without success. Then he finally revealed to Dolores, Evan Rachel Wood, that he was the famous William Jimmy Simpson, whom she had loved so much 30 years earlier. Moments later, in his lab, Dr. Robert Ford, Anthony Hopkins, revealed the identity of Dolores aka Wyatt to Bernard, and reunited them again, 35 years after the death of Arnold. Finally, Ford joined the evening with its shareholders and revealed their intentions with the implementation of a brand new scenario, his last for Westworld. At that moment, Dolores, who had become fully aware of her condition and her identity after the laboratory events between her, Bernard and Ford, was killing Ford during his speech before shooting at all the guests. A few meters away, the rest of the android's hosts finally rebelled to the delight of the man in black William, who found opponents to his size and finally felt the fear of dying. Out of control, the end of Season 1 had left Westworld Park ablaze. Upon his return, the series of Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy makes us understand it in its opening credits. The one in the first season was back-and-forth scenes where no detail escaped the designers and where no hitch seemed to be able to derail the machine. In the credits of this Season 2, the white color omnipresent in the credits of Season 1 gives way to a darker and darker atmosphere. The control completely escapes the creator and the employees since the created bison, which replaces the horse of the Season 1, rebels until breaking some machines of conception. Much worse, the copulation of the generic of Season 1 is replaced by an android carrying a young child, as to imply the birth of a new world and especially a new consciousness within the park. This season premiere focuses on 4 different characters, or at least 4 different bands, with Bernard and Charlotte Hale, Tessa Thompson, Dolores and Teddy, James Marsden, William the Man in Black, and finally Maeve and Lee Sizemore, Simon Quarterman. Dolores brings terror to the park by torturing or killing the many visitors. The Man in Black on his side resumes his habits as he can after having escaped from death at the time of the speech of Ford, and continues his hunt against host more hostile than ever. Finally, Maeve does everything to find her daughter and team with Lee Sizemore, author of some scenarios of the park, who discovers that she has a human conscience, and his dear Hector, Rodrigo Santoro. I Have a Dream. However, the most interesting plot of this first episode revolves around Bernard's character. Between the timeline with Charlotte Hale, Tessa Thompson, where he tries to escape the hosts, and the one that takes place with the park agents including Ashley Stubbs, Luke Hemsworth, and the supervisor Carl Strand, Gustav Skarsgård, the writers are having fun to tug the viewer between dream and reality, remnants of memory and false memories of this good old Bernard. One can ask real questions about what he believes real, what he imagines, what he really lives, and especially the establishment of 2 different timelines around his adventures put in place a mystery. What happened between his 2 moments? What has become of the ambitious Charlotte Hale? Who is this really Carl Strand, new character of the show, very enigmatic? The finale of this episode suggests an answer that will be kept silent here. Westworld, the Dolores era with the return of 110 in the countries of Robert Ford Park. Season 2 Westworld. We promise a great show by putting in place some puzzles and playing again once the time, such as Love the Nolan Brothers. Since the final revelations of Season 1, we have the feeling that each character can change dramatically in this series in the image of Dolores, whose thirst for revenge has never been greater and no longer to put in doubt, which suggests to us psychological changes or deep existential reflections to come throughout this new season. Moreover, even if this episode distills a lot of information, takes place on several frames or even different timelines, it follows very easily. The characters are known and their past having been installed over the course of Season 1, we take less head and the story is much more fluid and fun to follow. Finally, beyond his scenario, the first episode also features many action scenes perfectly mastered and coordinated by the director Richard J. Lewis, person of interest, the experts. Whether it's the shooting with the Man in Black, Maeve's fight at Westworld, or Dolores' pursuit on the air of Scott Joplin's The Entertainer, all of them are perfectly staged and blessed with a remarkable aesthetic signed by the chief operator Darren Tiernan, already at work for American Gods. The return of Ramin Djawadi's mesmerizing scores will also be highlighted, as well as a welcome revival of his music in the Guards timeline. It creates a heavy atmosphere and a suffocating atmosphere that is reminiscent of the powerful composition of the late Jóhann Jóhannsson in Sicario. With this return, Westworld returns with magnificent assets in his hands, and we prepare undoubtedly for a season 2 much darker and violent, better rhythmic, better structured, and in full possession of its means. With the planned introduction of new parks in the next episodes, also tease very briefly at the end of this episode, the new season of the HBO series looks very rich for our greatest happiness.